We don't have to do this. You know that, right?
What's the other option?
Go back to Tommy's. Just be done with this whole damn thing.
After all we've been through. Everything that I've done. I can't be for nothing.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Season 1 finale of It Can't Be For Nothing, Our Last of Us in Review. Welcome to Project Potter, guys. My name is Kyle, your host. We got Joel and Ellie here from the famous giraffe scene, guys, which they really nailed. There's some things in this finale that they nailed. There's some that they didn't nail. But I think overall a strong finishing, guys. But if you haven't been to the channel before, my name is Kyle. Thanks for checking out the channel. What I do is kind of go through the thoughts on the episode, guys. I will usually put in the scenes that match up. For the most part, guys, this finale was just one for one the rest of the way. So Season 1 finale of The Last of Us. I didn't know what I wanted from this finale. I was interested to see if they were going to stick with the landing, if they were going to change up any characters or any crazy movements. But I think it pretty much went as I expected, where they didn't really change anything. It was just kind of beat for beat, exactly the game. Craig even mentions in the post-show that the giraffe scene they did pretty much shot for shot because it was so perfect. And I do love how Ellie drops the ladder and she's spacing out, and you can tell that Ellie knows that she's probably not getting out of this alive. And I thought that Bella Ramsey did an excellent job of that. I think there's two ways that the show kind of distinguishes itself from the game, in some positive ways, and then there's some other things that I think the game does better. So Bella, like I said, guys, you can just tell, right? She's zoning out, she's spacing out, and she knows, and she tells Joel, like, look, everything we've done, everything that I've done, she's like, it can't be for nothing. We get that amazing scene. And she knows, like, she's being the more mature one here, and Joel's like, you know, they're opening up, and I like how this episode, like, they're talking a lot more, and they're having a good time, and it kind of leads to them letting their guard down, and I thought it was going to be actually a lot worse when they get, like, that smoke grenade or that flashbang, when they're talking and they're having, like, a good time, and then all of a sudden in the background, I thought that was beautifully shot. You see that guy just come on and, like, throw something, and I was like, dude, that was really, really well shot, but I knew nothing was going to really happen to them, but that was great. And I thought Pedro Pascal's expressions in this episode were excellent, dude. I think it was really, really, like, very, to me, this Joel, I think, with his decision at the end to save Ellie and essentially forego any sort of cure, guys, and we'll get into that in just a bit, but I thought his expressions the whole way, it was so good, because it was like, Joel knew that he had to save Ellie. Like, he knew that he couldn't suffer that type of loss again, where he was about to lose his second daughter. And he opens up to Ellie, like, how did you get the scar? First of all, guys, I'm going to be honest, I didn't notice the scar the whole season. When she's like, oh, how'd you get the scar? I literally was like, what scar? I go, and it's like on the side, I guess. And we find out that he's like, you know, there was a guy who she thinks it was like a firefight and the guy missed her, who's a crappy shot. And he reveals to her, which I didn't even pick up on until I saw the post-show interview with Craig, where Joel was so sad about Sarah, he was so broken that he tried to commit suicide and he couldn't do it. He didn't have the courage. And so he, like, missed his, you know, he was trying to blow his head off, basically, and he missed. And that's how he got the scar. And so it's really, really eye-opening into Joel's past and just where he was and, you know, how far he's come, and he's been so closed off and why he's acted the way he was. And then he's finally opened up to Ellie. And he almost kind of forgets. It's weird because Joel, I don't think, even comprehends that Ellie could be sacrificed for a cure. And he's going through, and you think Joel would know that because, you know, she even tells him earlier, and this is probably also why Ellie knows, when she tried to give her blood to, and this is specific to the show, but like when she tried to give her blood to Sam, it didn't work. And so Ellie, I think, knows, okay, you can't just take my blood and give it out. It's not going to work like that for a cure. Now, she doesn't know the cordyceps is in the brain, but I think that she understands that she's probably not making out of this alive if she wants to provide the cure. So that's why I think she's so spacey, and she's like realizing that their time is coming to an end, and he's like, we're almost there, and she's just zoning out. And opens up, guys, with Ashley Johnson playing Anna, who's Ellie's mom, which is great because she is literally the voice of Ellie, and I thought they were going to give her a couple more lines, when the infected or the clicker, not the clicker actually, this was just a runner. When it came at Anna, I don't know why she was running in the woods. Was there like an attack or something? Was this like a mutual safe house? She's like asking for I think this was like the Firefly base or something, and maybe Marlene and them were just out. I don't know. I'm assuming like an ambush or something went wrong, or they were ambushed, and I don't know. But she clearly like is pregnant, and she's running through the woods, and she goes here, and she's like, guys, and then there's like one runner in the house, which is weird because it's like, has the house been abandoned? There's like questions I had where I was like, I didn't feel like the show explained them. And then Marlene comes back like hours later. And every time someone gets bit, I wish I had a reference guide of that poster that says, if you get bit in the head or neck, it's 1 hour. If you get bit in the leg, it's 48 hours or whatever it is. And every time someone gets bit, I'm like, how long before they turn? And obviously it had been multiple hours for Anna, and she's sitting there and the bite's getting bad. And this was confusing to me because Marlene at the end says like the cordyceps in her thinks that it's cordyceps or something, or like the other things. It was really confusing. She like said it really quickly and didn't really explain it well. And I was like, because it's kind of like, why is Ellie immune? And we don't really ever find out in the game because we never meet Anna, and there's like audio logs and stuff. But this was a chance to like show, hey, this is why Ellie's different. And I didn't really understand the reasoning. It was just something that was, I think, so important. And I guess the thing is that like, it was weird. The whole Anna scene was just weird, dude. And I love Ashley Johnson. I'm so glad she got to play it. And she even says like it's so special that I got to play like Anna, like the mother of the character I voice and care so much about. And that's great. But I just thought it was handled weird where, you know, obviously when she tells Marlene, like, you have to kill me. And then Marlene's like, I can't do it. And then Marlene knows that she has to kill her because that's the right thing to do. And she doesn't want to turn. And she was waiting for Marlene or someone to show up so they could take care of Ellie. But it was weird because she gets attacked and obviously she's like in distress, but then she stabs the runner, and then like Ellie is born at the same time basically. And then it's because she notices her bite on the leg, and then she cuts the umbilical cord after, which I think is why Ellie is immune. I don't know if it like transferred through the umbilical cord. I don't know. That was confusing to me. And I was just like, it's just something that like, I wish they spent a little bit more time on, or something was explained. And, you know, I don't want them to like spoon feed me the answer, but like just something a little bit more where I'd be like, okay, that's why. So I thought that was an important scene, and I thought that was kind of weird, even though it was sad that like she, you know, told Marlene to kill her. Although that was weird too, because Marlene's like, hey, cover her ears. And then this dude holding the baby was just like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like, she shoots her, and then like Ellie just starts crying, and it's like, dude, she just said to cover the ears, you know? And obviously, like, you know, you can't like hold the ears and cover a whole gunshot, but it was just a strange little scene there. But I'm still really happy for Ashley that she got to do that. But the problem with this episode, guys, and I just don't understand why they did it this way. This episode and last episode, but mostly this episode, felt very rushed, dude. And obviously they took certain pieces out. They skipped over the whole RV scene where like Ellie almost drowns, and that's such a huge scene, and I don't know why they didn't even like attempt to do that. And obviously, like in the game, guys, they're crossing like this RV. It's a really cool scene, and then it's like through this raging water, and then the RV starts to slip, and they keep going, and it's this crazy like dramatic scene. And then Ellie goes down there, and we think Ellie's dead. There's like a shot where Ellie is like, we think she's drowned, and Joel has to swim really quickly to get her, and then he's like out of breath, and then the guys are waiting on the shore. And then that's when he's like, please, you know, she's not breathing. And then that's when they're like on the ground or whatever. And it's really emotional because Joel is like, dude, my daughter is going to die right here. She's drowning. She needs like CPR. She needs resuscitation. And these guys are like, shut up. Like, put your hands up in the air. Like, they're more interested in capturing her. And this one, they just got flashbanged, and then they just took them. And I was like, that's how we're doing it? They skipped over the whole like underground sequence where there's like 2 bloaters and a bunch of infected, and it's really cool. And I know that, like, you know, I'm sure it's very expensive to do the bloater scene, and we had the bloater scene, but like for The Last of Us, and I know they had to cut out a lot of like, you know, the little things, and obviously the gameplay is a lot longer, there's more hours, but there weren't really many infected at all in this first season. And I didn't even realize that until like the credits rolled, and I was like, oh, okay, we got the bloater scene, and we got the clickers, like the second or third episode, whenever that was, but that's pretty much it. And we got a runner here and there, but I'm like, I'm surprised that we didn't get more of that. And we had the horde scene, obviously, with the bloater. That was awesome, but I don't think I need like clickers every 2 minutes. But a little bit more, I think, would have been interesting. So yeah, this episode just, to me, it felt like they were going and they had the draft scene that was great, and they're having this nice moment, and then of course, right from the nice moment, they get knocked out, and then Joel wakes up in the Firefly Hospital, and it's really cool that Marlene is the same actress who voiced her and played her, and they made the character model look like her in the game. It's really cool that she reprised her role because this scene was going on, and I felt like I had already seen this, and I was like, oh, this is so cool that we get to see this for the first time in live action. But they, like I said, guys, they pretty much went beat for beat, but it was like a 45-minute finale, and I was just like, oh, we're like ripping through this, dude. And I feel like even like the draft scene was so nice, but even that I felt like was a little rushed, and I thought that should have gone on a little bit longer. And they did have the music, and there it was nice, and I like how, Ellie runs away and the ladder falls, and Joel's like, Ellie, you need to like put that. They did the straight up boost, dude, and I was like, oh, okay, we're doing the video game thing. That's a nice little like tip of that cap there. I just felt like we were at just breakneck pace, and I'm like, this should have been like an hour and a half episode, because I feel like we met Anna. She's killed. We're like, oh, Ellie's immune, and then the whole thing with Marlene happens, and then suddenly we're with Joel and Ellie, and they have their nice moment, and then we're just in the hospital, and then even Joel taking out the guys, it was like so quick, and that's like a huge firefight at the end, and I know he took out a bunch of guys, and the music was playing, but like we should have sat on that, or like Joel should have struggled. I mean, in that section, guys, in the game, you have to like throw your grenades and stuff. There's a bunch of guys that come at you, and it was brutal, but like I didn't think that it was really like the pure brutality that it could have been. And so I understood the reasons for it. And again, Pedro Pascal's facial expressions were great. And he really felt, I felt like to me that Joel knew that he has to do this, but he also knew that it was the wrong decision. And I will say, when Bella wakes up and he's like, hey, easy. And again, it's pretty much shot for the game, which I really am glad they did, because as much as I would have liked to see their take on it, it's just so well done that I was like wondering, and I was like, I hope they stick to the original ending. When Bella wakes up in the car and he's like, easy, and he starts telling her the lie, dude, and he says like, it turns out there's a whole bunch of immune people just like you, and the music starts playing, I was like, oh, dude, you got me. But Bella, I could tell right away she knew. There's a montage in the show too, but I just like knew right away that Bella knew that he was lying, and she was kind of like, well, where are my clothes? And he's like, oh, Raiders came and attacked the hospital. And he's like, we had to get out. And she's like, is Marlene okay? And then when he didn't answer, she was like, So I think she figured everything out. And maybe it's like this Ellie, I think, is smarter than Joel. But I thought that was interesting, where in the game, you're like, it seemed like Joel was, kind of not doing the right thing, but like you could kind of justify his actions. In this one, I was like, oh, dude, Joel is the bad guy. And Ellie knows that he's lying, and it's like, man, but it still works so well. And we get into that in obviously part 2, and I'm so excited for part 2, dude, because again, it's my favorite game of all time. I cannot wait. It's going to be a while before that comes out, but I'm really interested to see how much they stick to that, how much they change. And I hope they stick to the big moments, because the big moments are like my favorite moments in any media ever, dude. I love it. I cannot wait to see that. Season 1, guys, I just thought we were going so fast, man. And I will say, when we got to the scene where they go to Jackson, and he's like, it's a 5-hour hike, and then they kind of skip forward. I'm like, that's cool. I wish they did the fence thing where he like lets her through the fence and she walks through, but that's okay. But they get to Jackson, and I was like, here we go, and the music starts playing, and then she goes, okay, and then I like started saying the lines before she started saying lines, and she's like, Riley was the first to die, and I was like, oh man, and as soon as she said, the music starts playing, and I got goosebumps just talking about it. As soon as she said, swear to me that everything you said about the Fireflies is true, and the music starts playing, and it's like, oh. And the only thing I will say is that Joel, in the game, there's like a very distinct pause where she says it, and the music plays, and then Joel waits, and then he takes a second, and he says, I swear. And Troy delivered that line so perfectly. Joel said it too quickly, and I can't believe Neil didn't say, that's great, Pedro, but like, wait, we need to wait like another 3 or 4 seconds, because to me, having played the game and seeing that scene so many times, like having it memorized, I was like, okay, and I was like looking at Pedro, like, I'm like, here we go, and he said it, and I was like, oh, dude, you should have waited a few more seconds to say that. But it was still delivered well. Pedro's been great, but the one line I thought he delivered poorly. He sounded like a robot, dude, when Marlene says, it's so good, again, it's so good in the game, it's so perfect, when he says, you'll just come after her, and shoots her, and then it cuts to black. They did that too, but Pedro said, you'll just come after her, and then like shot her. And I was like, oh dude, there's just a couple things where I'm like, they paid attention to so much detail and they put so much love into this show. But it's like there's a couple scenes and a couple lines where I'm like, oh, you should have done another take of that, dude. And I understand they probably did like, dozens of takes and they took the best one, but like, it's so important that I was like, oh man, dude, because I know Pedro can nail that line, but it's like, just do it one more time, I wish this episode was like an hour and a half. I wish that they had shorter episodes leading up to this, and then I wish they put it in because I just didn't feel like there was enough time between meeting Anna and Ellie, and then the nice moment with the giraffe, and then they're on the hospital, and then the quick Joel blows through everyone, and it's like, that was really quick. And then we get the scene where they go to Jackson, and it's like, it's great because we got all that, but it's like we really should have like split those into the last 2 episodes where like maybe they should have, what they probably should have done, guys, and I don't know why they didn't do that. I'm sure there's a reason. The end of episode 8 should have been like them maybe having the giraffe moment, and then, or maybe even saving it for this one, but like Joel should have gotten knocked out. And Ellie should have, like, when they got knocked out with the flashbang, that should have been the end of episode 8. And then people would be like, oh my god, dude, cliffhanger. And then episode 9 starts out with Joel in the Firefly thing. And then you have the whole episode to dedicate to that dude. And they didn't have, like, the strobe, the red lights or whatever. Like, when you're running through the final level, the music's playing and it's so beautiful. And you got to run to the elevator, dude. And you got to, like, go through, like, the pediatric surgery and stuff. That hallway we see so many times in part 2 and part 1 that it's like so iconic that I can't believe that they didn't do it like one for one. They put like different stuff on there, and I know they're adapting it so they want to make it different, but I was like, there's certain things where I was like, oh, I wanted the hallway to be exactly the same, dude. I wanted, like, if we're going to be this faithful and we're going to be this true, and you're going to do like the big moments the same, I want the important details. And for the most part, the show nailed it throughout the season. There's certain things where I was like, oh, I wanted that hallway to be exactly the same, dude, because we flashed back to that many times in Last of Us Part 2, the game. And so I've seen that hallway with like the flickering light, and it's like very blue and like empty so many times. And in here I was like, it just looks different. And again, I get it, it's different, but I just thought they rushed through everything, dude. And I was like, and the big moments still hit. Don't get me wrong. When she says, she does that little thing and the music's playing and she goes, I swear. And then they cut to black, and I was like, dude. Like, I was just like in my room clapping because I was like, good job, guys. I wish it was longer, and I wish there was more time, because imagine you sit down and you get that crazy thing with Anna and Ellie, you go through all these nice moments and stuff, and you really like sit down, and I wish they spent more time being like, this is the end of Joel and Ellie's journey. And like, I wish they really built that up to be like, the audience doesn't know that Ellie's going to die from surgery, but like fans of the game know that. They spent more time with Joel and Ellie, like really getting along, because we didn't really see that until the end of last episode, and then really into this episode. So I wish they spent more time. And then 90 minutes later, guys, it's like you've been on this emotional journey, and then it's like you're like, oh my god, Joel's taking Ellie, and it's like I wish that was it. But still, I think a really strong episode. For a score, guys, it's at 8-9, and I wish I could give this a higher score, but they're just omitting too many big things, and there's just a couple things that I think really. I watched this episode and I was like, great, that was a great season, and I'm so excited for season 2, but I'm like, the game is still better. And I didn't think that the show would be better than the game, and it added context, and like I feel like the information I got from the show and the game, I feel like that's kind of one in my brain now. Skipping the RV, and again, I know they're not going to have Joel and Ellie like literally fall through a giant RV and float with water and stuff. I'm sure that's very difficult to do. But to not even include Ellie like drowning there, and then that's like such a big moment, and then like for him to get captured was strange to me. And just like, it's just like some dude hanging out in that tent, and also was he just waiting over there while they were talking for 10 minutes? Like, it was strange to me. Anna thing I felt was a little rushed. I wish they gave Ashley a little bit more to do in there, and I don't know, I wanted one line as Ellie, and it was cool to see her like, because her voice is literally just Ellie's voice, but I wish that like when the runner came up, she was stabbing, and I wish she said like, die motherfucker or something like that, and like that would have been like, cool, that's Ellie saying that. But you know what I mean, it's little things like that, guys. But I mean, just skipping the whole bloater scene. And again, I understand that they can't have everything, but like they like skipped over big portions of the game at the end. And even if they had like, and again, I know this is practical, but if you guys remember, like at the end of the game, you go down and there's like that scene where I think you see the hospital in the distance, and like you have to like, there's water and there's like 2 ladders you have to like shimmy around. I'll probably put that scene in here, guys. But I wish they did something like that. It was just suddenly Joel's like, oh, the hospital's coming up. And then we didn't even get the shot of the hospital. That's like an iconic shot. They're just there. And then Joel gets knocked out and they're just up. And it seemed like for sure this cure was going to work. And there's something very specific about this that they're probably going to play into season 2. I'm not going to say it because people, I'm sure, have either not played the game. And if you're even remotely into video games, if you love the show, I can't imagine that you're not going out and playing part 1 and part 2 because it's so good. And I'm so excited at the time of this recording. I'm going to be playing through part 1 and part 2 for the channel, guys. And I'm so excited to do that. But like, I've been like, oh man, I can't wait to play part 1 again. And there's been other stuff I've been working on in the meantime. But this is just making me want to go. And like, I'm so excited now to go through having this knowledge from the show, going through and just like paying attention to all these little things. And obviously like the Bill and Frank stuff is different, but yeah, it's still a really strong finale. And I'm glad they stuck to the script. I just wish we had more time to let it breathe, dude. It was just like too much to squeeze into a 45-minute episode. So I think the big omissions, a couple of big scenes and just like small line deliveries, but mostly just like the missing material, I think really kind of hurt it. And I still had a great time and I'm still going to miss the hell out of the show, but I just wish that they really like gave this last one some more time to breathe. Okay guys, well that's the season 1 finale of It Can't Be For Nothing. Thanks for checking out the channel. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to miss this show and it's probably not going to be back for like a year and a half at least, probably longer. Season 2, I'm so interested. For the most part, this one really stuck to the script. The Bill and Frank was obviously a huge difference, but like for the most part, everything else was par for the course. And so I'm just so excited to see like the Joel and Tommy stuff in part 2 and everything that happens in part 2 and who they are going to cast for certain characters. And I don't want to say anything because I don't want to spoil anything, guys. But yeah, I will probably have my playthroughs up, probably part 1 and part 2. You know what I might do? What I'm probably going to do, guys, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm probably going to release my part 1 playthrough sometime between when this goes up and then before season 2 starts. And I think when season 2 starts, what I'm going to do, I'm going to have my part 2 playthrough all the way done. And I think what I'm going to try to do is release part 2 weekly with my reviews of the show part 2 so that we can kind of match them up to some extent. And obviously it's not going to be 1-for-1, but I think that will be pretty interesting to see. So anyway, guys, I really appreciate you guys checking out the channel. Let me know what you thought of the episode and the season. Fantastic season overall. They really did pull off the best adaptation of video games ever. Like no doubt, dude. It was so good. But I do think the game was still just so perfectly done. And obviously, again, you spend more time and more hours with the characters and it's more personal because you're on the sticks. Bella and Pedro are so good, dude. Like I want to just see more and more of them. And they really did feel like father and daughter when he picks her up and, you know, she's in the back and they're on the hike. Bella was looking at Joel like, I was like, dude, she just knows that, you know, and that's why she asked him, right? And in the game, you don't know, and it's assumed, but like when the game credits rolled, when that first happened, first of all, I was blown away because I was like, oh my God, this is one of the best endings of anything ever. When she says okay and it cuts to black, I was like, she knows he's lying, but like she loves him and she understands why he did it. And I think this was the case, but Bella was looking at Joel a little like sad for him, I think. And I think she was kind of like, oh, when he's like sitting there, he's talking about Sarah. He's like, oh, I think you'd like Sarah. And she's like, oh, yeah. And then he's like, yeah, you know, she was taller and had a nice smile. And, you know, not that you don't have a nice smile. And that was a cute moment. But she was just kind of like, oh, I think everything was kind of happening. And she's just sitting there. I love the shots of Bella just like staring and just like her thinking about everything. And she's in the truck and she just knows that like he shouldn't have taken me away. And they go into that in part 2, guys. And I cannot wait. And Ellie is obviously a much different character in part 2. So for anyone who's played the game. So I'm excited to see. They have to have Bella, obviously. Like, there's no doubt she proved herself in this season. But it's going to be an older and a much grittier Ellie if they stick to part 2. So I can't wait. But anyway, guys, I'm rambling. Thanks for checking out the channel. Like, comment, subscribe. And until next time, guys.
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything that you said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.